They're falling off.
This is gonna be the beginning of the video. Is just you going like this. All right. What's going on, everybody?
You want to know how to be transformed in life? You go like
That's
this.
Right. You gotta flex your wrists just like so.
Welcome, everyone.
I think we're live. What's going on, everybody? We should have a good crew today. We had a good number of people registered. So if you're just logging in, hi there. Guy and Elon here, of course. Feel free to start using the chat box to say hello, ask your questions, anything like that. Just while people are piling in here, it usually takes a few minutes. We're going to play you a quick video. This is just some people, their rhetoric and testimonials of people that have worked with us. So you kind of get a sense of the work that we do here and kind of give you the sense of the work that can be done even here today with your questions. So while you're watching the video, for those of you guys who are already prepared with any questions you might want to ask, please drop them in the chat box. If you're here and you're like, what the hell am I doing on this webinar? This is a live Q&A coaching webinar. So we give you the same type of coaching that we might give our high-end clients who pay upwards of $1,500 an hour to give you a really good sense of the type of work that we do. So if you're going to ask a question, all we ask is that it's super specific so that we can be very specific with our feedback and coaching to you. Other than that, we'll be back here in about 4 or 5 minutes. So enjoy the short little reel and we'll get started as soon as it's done. All right, here we go.
So you knew I was like really struggling with signing up for this. And part of my big dilemma with signing up was like letting go of a financial aspect. Yeah. The day that I signed up, I shit you not, my boss calls me up and he's like, Mike, he's like, I know you're like really picking up the slack. I just want to let you know that we're going to give you a $5,000 bonus. So then I get my tax returns back from my accountant and I owe like $7,000 less than I was planning on owing. So like right there, 12 grand that like I just not planning on.
This little pebble started down the hill. Mine's gone on over the last 5 weeks. It has just built momentum, speed, and size. And I'm at this point now where I'm just like I'm happy. And I tell you, man, I appreciate you guys. And, you know, it's, this has been huge. I mean, I'm like 2.0. You know, yeah. That's the exciting thing. I am completely just at ease. You know, I wake up in the morning with zero anxiety now. It was like a line snapped, you know, this wall that had me just sort of like went like, it's all good, dude. You can go now. I'm in a crazy good place right now, guys. Yeah, talk about night and day from when we met, and the fact that I can smile legitimately like all flippin' day right now with no need to generate it or put it on like it's a mask. And I wake up every day thankful that you know, I found you guys and that you know, these things are happening to me and happening for me is a better way to put it.
Something that you've taught me has really changed the relationship between me and my children. You suggested that we change 2 words, and they were the words have to get to. So instead of saying, I have to cook dinner for my kids, or I have to play with them, or I have to take them to school, or now I have to put them to bed, I have followed your advice and changed those words from have to get to. And all of a sudden, my little human brain changes the entire energy around that task from something that feels like a chore to something that feels like a privilege. And it has actually changed the relationship with me and my kids, because not everything feels like such hard work anymore. I love them to bits, and thank you so much, Alam, for making my relationship with my children so much better.
I guess I'm going to say some pretty spectacular things here, and I just want you to know that from the bottom of my heart, these are very true statements. I was at a place in my life where I hit all my financial goals. I bought the toys that I felt like I needed, and quickly realized that I still wasn't happy. And it's at that point I decided to kind of look within and figure out why that was. I can say without a doubt, their program has totally altered my direction. It's given me a renewed sense of purpose, and overall I'm happier. I'm not as reactive to unfortunate events. I'm able to see things a lot clearer, and that's not to say that I didn't have my road bumps or or my setbacks throughout the past year, but I'm able to see it in a whole different light, and that's pretty amazing stuff to say out loud, and it's 100% true. And obviously it was a lot of work on my part, but I owe quite a bit to my current circumstances, to Guy and Elon, both professionally and personally. These guys are amazing. They've got a ton of training under their belt, and without a doubt, jump in with both feet. I can't tell you how much benefit you'll get sitting in my chair here a year from now. So
I hadn't spoken to my brother, my younger brother, 2 years younger than me, for 10 years. Some stupid incident in our family, and I hadn't spoken to him for 10 years. I missed his wedding and everything. It got me to realise that I should take 100% responsibility for the situation, and I did. I went on to my brother, and I spoke to him, took responsibility. We now have an amazing relationship. We are brothers. It means that's huge, absolutely huge. I wouldn't have had that in my life at all if it wasn't for Guy and Alarm.
Because of you guys, my success and where I'm at today, I am forever grateful and thankful for you guys and the things that you've done. Teaching me how to reprogram my mind, how to reprogram the negative to a positive, changing my mindset, understanding that some of my own limiting beliefs that were holding me back for a long time, from a year ago to a guy being in jail. The things that you do are powerful. I want you to know, from one brother to another, it forever changed my life. It's people like you that make this world a better place, man. And I just wanted you to know I'm thankful. My kids are going to be better because I know that I've always got to keep working on myself to become the best person I possibly can. And I'm at that point where I'm the best version of myself. I'm forever thankful, guys. Peace and love, man.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
Welcome. And I see that many of you have actually already posted questions, which is absolutely awesome. I know you guys followed the instructions and actually had them ready to go, because no one can write that fast.
And if they can, we want to know how.
Yeah, exactly. So I just want to say a few things here before we jump right in. I'm going to actually have to leave here at exactly 4 o'clock, so the top of the hour, to pick up my kids from camp. It is summer, and so I just want to be responsible for that and let you guys know. And Guy will still be here to answer any more questions. So if you guys have more questions and need more time, he'll be available for that. And just real quick, so we can get into this, if you don't know who we are, I don't want to take too much time. I just want to let you know a few of the basic things. One, Guy and I have spent the last 16, 17 years in personal development. We've coached thousands of people from all over the world. In fact, we coached for about 8 years for free just because we love doing it. We've spent over $1 million in our education, in our mastery. And so what we look to impart on anyone that comes in contact with us is a piece of that wisdom, right? Not from like, oh, look, this is really smart, I read this in the book, but rather from experience. We have loads of experience personally, and then obviously also from having coached thousands of people. We've pretty much heard everything under the sun that you can possibly imagine, things that are both incredible and shocking and amazing and everything in between. So there's literally nothing that you can't ask us, whether it's about your relationships, your finances, growing your business, how to be super healthy and fit. We are two people that I would say have dedicated our lives to mastery of every single area of life. And we really, really, truly mean that. So if you ever want to know anything else about us, or if there's something specific you want to know about us, please don't hesitate to ask. Happy to answer. Nothing's off the table. But this is really about you guys and us giving you as much value as we can in the next, 70, 80 minutes or so. So with that, I want to jump into the questions. For those of you that are sitting on the sidelines, maybe haven't asked a question, the only guidelines are be as specific as possible. Okay. Obviously, we only get to go off of the text and what you've written here. Generally, just so you know, whether it's in one of our group coaching programs or one-on-one programs, whatever, people work with us, it's a conversation. It's a back and forth. So someone will say a story, ask us questions, etc. We get to ask questions as back and forth. So we can obviously go a lot more in depth in that. So what we want to do, the intention, I guess, of today is to give you a peek behind the curtains of what working with us could possibly look like for you. And so at some point, we're just going to make a very, very simple offer for you guys to do just that, not buy into a program, not anything like that, but just simply raise your hand and say, hey, I'd like to have a one-on-one session with you and find out what that's like. That one-on-one session, by the way, is not with a sales rep. It's not with one of our other coaches. It's with me personally. And like I mentioned before, we're currently charging $1,500 an hour. And we're going to explain to you how a little bit later you can get on a call with me for about 30, 40 minutes for just $99 investment. That if you don't like that call for whatever reason, or you don't choose to move forward with us, you can actually still even get that $99 back. So we do that just to make sure that we're talking to the right people who are committed to themselves, and we'll explain how to do that later. But yeah, that's the entire intention. So I say, bro, let's jump into the first question. And
and it's Catherine. I think I know which Catherine it is too. So I'll ask the question, and we'll shoot for it. We'll see who gets a
cool.
Answer the first question, right? It's a goose.
That's when we start with this, then we go with this.
It's a goose. Catherine says, I've lived my life with financial, small, not worthy mindset. I came from a family with just enough to get by. My parents were not money savvy, and I have lived a life believing that was all I deserved because I was not born into financial abundance. I now realize that we are all worthy of it. How do I shift my thinking to authentically believing and embracing that I am worthy and I can manifest financial abundance? So she has a second question. So let's start with that. Also, other people, I know Jivan and a few other people mentioned this too. So I think we'll knock out a whole bunch of birds with a single stone here. Me or you?
Go for it.
It's good. Okay, I'm just going to stop. Catherine, awesome question. We're super happy to have you here. I think you're the Catherine that's been with us for a long time, but probably your first time on a webinar, as you said. So I want to highlight a few things, and I want to tell you a few things about Elon and myself too. Elon and myself, we are of Russian immigrant descent. So both of our parents are from the former USSR. They fled in the late 70s. They spent 13 years of their lives in Israel, and then we moved to the States in '89. We didn't know wealth at all. In fact, we grew up in a family that collectively, when Elon and I were little babes or kids, had about $1,600 a month to live off of. I remember we had a calendar in the kitchen where mom and dad would write down our expenses to make sure we had enough money at the end of the month for rent. So just so you get where we grew up. And if you know a little of our history, some of you guys said you're from DEA, SFM. You know that we were top earners, affiliate marketers, and we earned millions of dollars while we were in those organizations. So we've basically been from here to running commercial real estate businesses that at some point had $110 million under asset management, meaning we had $110 million of loans out on commercial real estate all over the world, lost all of that, and then started building this company over the last 8 years. So I'm giving you that because our history does not dictate our future or even our present. And so that's number one. Number two, the thing that stuck out for me is, and this is where a lot of people still get stuck with their personal development stuff. And I think this is an important and crucial step to personal development. So I don't want to sidestep it or make it seem like it's mundane. You talked about shifting your belief, right? How can I change my mind? Honestly, I think if we summarized why people come on this webinar, we could say, hey, come learn how to change your mind, and everybody would show up. And there's certainly an aspect of personal development, of our spiritual development, that has to do with understanding the mind. And here's why. Because if you don't understand the mind, it's going to run the show. That's just what's so. If you don't understand how linguistics works with energy, you're going to start manifesting things that you don't want, right? And a lot of us have internal negativity that is very prevalent, and we hear a lot of negative criticism within ourselves. And guess what? That criticism, that negativity has an energy to it, and that energy is mirrored in our reality, right? So whatever programs you have around money, I'm assuming, right, there's these like repetitive patterns in your system. So first things first, right, is it's important to have that breakdown. And a lot of what we teach early on with people is understanding the phenomenology of the mind, how to use language, the distinctions like responsibility and integrity, so that they become basically the foundational baseline from which you live from. So you can start having the experience that's really important is the absolute knowing that what's in front of you is a matter of your own creation, that it could not be any other way other than the way that you say, the way that you feel, and the way that you think that it is. Okay. Now, because a lot of you guys are asking this question, I'm going to go a little bit deeper on it. Here's the thing. You cannot understand how to make more money. You just can't. Here's why I know this, okay, or why I'm going to assert this. There are plenty of books out there that talk about how to make money. There are endless seminars out there about how to make money. There are an incredible amount of influencers online, Gary V's of the world, etc., who put out books on how to make money. Now, if the formula for making money was as easy as something that you read or a course that you went to, you would see way more people being wealthy. But we don't, right? What we see and what we're told is that working really hard will get you there. And again, I'm not saying that that's not true to an extent, but it's only a partial truth. The people like, and here's what I want to say a little bit more about money, is that people believe that if they have enough money that they'll have safety. Mm-hmm. And that's the core issue of what you're asking, is you're not even asking, how do I make more money? You're asking, how do I feel more safe? Because you think if I had more, I would feel safer. And this is why I want to give you this part, because that's the ultimate lie. We have been around many, many, many wealthy people, like 7, 8, 9-figure earners, right? People are making millions of dollars a year. And I could tell you it's a desperate place to be when one has made all the money, especially coming from no money. One has made all the money being told that once you have the money, the safety is there, you can buy all the things and the joy increases and all these things happen. And again, to an extent, there's a partial truth to that. But when you get there and you find out that you don't feel any safer with $1 million in the bank than you did with $10 in the bank, it is a very, very scary moment for a lot of people. And we've worked with people and have friends who've been there. And I could tell you their biggest breakdowns happen when they have the most money, because that's the reality check. So if we start looking at this part of it, that it's really about safety that matters to you, and that what's in the way of you experiencing more abundance, and I prefer to use the word abundance than wealth, because abundance is very expansive. Abundance can look like suddenly people are like giving you things for free, or you start like winning trips and vacations, or people reach out to you and they're like, hey, I'd love to fly you out here to connect with you, or I'd love to fly you out here because I want you to speak at an event, right? Whatever it might be. Like, to me, that's all in the world of abundance. Like, there are things being provided for you on your path that are allowing you to expand. And that would be kind of my definition of it. So what we want to start looking at is really what's happening within the frame of the body, this felt sense, right, Catherine, that what you're talking about. There's like a feeling to money, to I'm worthy. And I think that's the most important part, is how do you feel about your worthiness? So I want to just talk to you about why people don't feel worthy. I'll hand it over to you, Len, after that, so you can kind of like fill in the other blanks. But here's what's happening. Life is like, there's an illusion, right, of life like coming at us, like something's coming at us. It's really like we're watching a movie reel. Now, as life comes at you, notice that there is this tendency to disassociate with, try to avoid, right? We do this through like our addictions and stuff like this, like try to avoid certain feelings in the body. And by the way, this is not just like big things in the body, like, oh my God, I'm angry, or oh my God, I'm sad. It's like, even before that starts and you've had that intuition, there's like these like felt sense, these what we call soul energy that is in the body that's moving and changing all the time. And every time this happens, you think to yourself, I don't want to experience that. I want the good part of life, but I don't want this thing, not this thing that's being shown to me right now. And every time you say no to some experience that life is providing for you, and it's really providing for you, not to you, that's providing for you, what you're essentially sending signal down from the brain to the body is, I don't want this experience. I'm not worthy of it. I don't want this experience. I'm not worthy of it. But what the body hears is, I'm not worthy. 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 And we reinforce this over and over again throughout our day. And then we get to a point where we see some opportunity, like an opportunity to make money. We go, I want this. I'm worthy of it. And you go like this, give it to me. And the body goes and collapses on itself. And what happens is you energetically cannot literally open. You are actually out of alignment. And if you think about, like, if you know anything about the chakra systems, right? And let's say like God is up here, call it whatever you will, like this energy that we connect with to manifest, it's like the energy can't actually cleanly move through the body. It's not getting a clean resonance. And this is what happens. So something that we want to start inviting in is starting to see the perfection in all the things that have happened to you in your life and how they've actually provided a lot of value for your individualistic growth. Because every experience that you've ever had has led you to where you are right now. I have this saying that you can see faith backwards, you can't see it forwards. Meaning, like, when you look back at your life, you can see how all the dots connect and you're so grateful. You're like, wow, if all these things had happened, I wouldn't have been where I am right now. I wouldn't have been provided with these opportunities, with these choices. But when we look forward, we can't see any of that. It's all this unknown, and it brings up fear in the body. But if we can sit inside of that same knowing that there really is no past, really is no future, it's only our relationship to what it is that we're calling these things. Ultimately, everything is happening for you in faith. So what we want to start inviting in is you giving an opportunity for your body to feel through every single experience as it's provided for you without any judgment. Now, there's a practice involved with this, right? Like something that I can kind of like lightly talk about as we go through this, and I'm sure we'll kind of point at it. But, you know, certainly this is what we work with people on, is like, what is a practice that allows you to embrace life as it is, feel everything through your system, and as your system learns that it can be with anything that it arises within itself, obviously it can be, right? Like, there's nothing your body can't be with that arises within itself. And as it learns that it can be with anything, what you actually shift at the subtle energy level of your body is your ability to be with anything, which means I'm now worthy of all experiences that come to me. And if I start feeling worthy at my core, right, literally at the subconscious energetic level of myself, suddenly life takes on a new frame. Everything becomes a lot more easy, not because I worked my ass off, but because I'm actually able to receive through my system all that I'm worthy of. And then you're always going to hit, the next wall of worthiness, and that's going to be something to work through. But if every time you hit worthiness and you try to understand it by reading a book, and the only thing that you have to do about worthy goes, I know, your body's like, I know worthy, you go, yes, I am. And your body's like, I know worthy, you go, yes, I am. Trust me, the body's going to win out. Because the mind is built for survival. It's built for safety. And that's why it uses tools like scarcity and fear and things like that, right? Because if you stay small, then to the mind, that's safe. But we want to expand. We want to grow. We want to, own our space. We want to start feeling worthy. And this is a deeper practice, somatic practice within the frame of the body that we work with people on, how to actually start feeling through everything within their system.
Done?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure. Yeah. So Catherine and to Javid, I think it was Javid also that asked about this, and there's a few others that I saw here. Jivan, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to share with you guys a story of when I realized that identity is nothing more than a story that we choose to tell ourselves. I was sitting in a room, and I was there for a weekend seminar. And at the end of the seminar, this 82-year-old man stood up. He hadn't spoken once throughout the entire event. And he stands up and he's crying. And he said, what I witnessed in this room for this weekend has been absolutely magic. And he starts telling us a story of his life. This man, when he was, I don't remember, like 6 or 7 years old, was a Jew and was captured. Him and his whole family were captured by the Nazis. The Nazis shot his entire family, brothers, sisters, parents, right in front of him, and then let him go. He didn't understand why. He didn't know why or anything, but he ran off, and he actually survived. He eventually, I think he was 19 years old or something like that, if I remember correctly, got onto a boat and made it to Ellis Island in New York. And he made a very, very conscious choice when he was getting off that boat. And the conscious choice was this. He had told himself that what happened to me happened to me, but it doesn't define me.
Mm.
It's not who I am. It's just something that happened to me. And he said that he walked off the boat, and when his right heel hit new earth, right, like on Ellis Island, he had this image of like as the heel was hitting and the toe was hitting, he was going to choose a brand new life. Like whatever happened to him was going to get to stay behind there on that boat, and he'll never forget, but he's not going to live that life based on that. And you can imagine that someone that watched such horror when you were a child, like there are plenty of people that went in a very other direction, right? Lost faith, lost an identity of who they are, all that kind of stuff, or put on the identity of, you know, I'm this Holocaust survivor and life is the worst, and right. And this man ended up coming to New York and building one of the largest construction companies, built a beautiful family for himself. He was now a grandparent of I don't know how many grandchildren, like lived what most would consider an absolutely incredible life. And I was really, really young at the time hearing the story in my 20s. And I just remember thinking like all the things, all the identities that through the years we put on ourselves. Because things happened, we say, okay, I'm this way, I'm not this way, I'm that way, I'm not that way. And we just keep collecting all this stuff. And as much as we'd like to say like, well, now I'm new, so I want to change this, it's not that easy. And so the question is, why is it not easy? And Catherine, to your point, like there's some part of your identity, just like there was some point of our immigrant identity tied to you. And it's all that you've known. You've literally created a life that keeps proving that identity right. The people in your life, the surroundings in your life, the work that you do, the place that you live, like conversations that you have are all there to feed back that your identity is valid. And there's something really scary about dropping an identity, because when we drop that piece, it's like, well, who the hell am I now? So because of that part of us that's really, really scared and nervous, that doesn't feel safe. So we'd rather stick to where we're at and what we know than step into some new identity of the unknown, because we don't know how to play that role just quite yet. And that's okay. So I'm going to give you like a personal example, right? So Guy and I are building this business and we keep hitting this ceiling. And we're like, okay, well, we're working with all the right mentors. We're doing all the things they're telling us. We're, you know, busting our asses, like having all the conversations, doing all those things. And yet we just keep hitting that same ceiling over and over and over again. And we like can't crack through it. So obviously we do a lot of personal development work personally, and we're constantly investigating and looking inwards and such. And we realize that because of this identity of being an immigrant, one of the things that got programmed in was that we didn't have anyone to rely on. When we moved here with our parents, we had no one. It was the four of us. That's it. And so we were programmed from a very early age to do everything on our own. Now, independence is an amazing thing. Don't get me wrong, like being able to stand on your own, do things on your own, etc. But when we were starting to build this business and the business keeps hitting this thing, we started to realize like we've been doing everything on our own. And every time we try to hire someone, it would blow up in our face, not because of anything that person did, but because internally, what was the identity that had to be right was that I'm the only one that can do it. I do it better than you, faster than you. So what's the point of even having you? And then we just keep having these things happen over and over and over and over until eventually we start to look inwards. Because like I said, we read all the books, did all the things that all the coaches and mentors told us. None of that made a fucking difference. Because when your programming internally is fixed a certain way, it doesn't matter how hard you work, how long you work, how fast you work, how smart you work, you will continue to produce very similar to the same results that you're producing right now. you guys have tried. How many books have you read about this topic? How many videos have you watched about this topic? How many seminars have you been about this topic? Where are you at? Still asking the same questions, right? Because it has nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that. Your life will drastically change the second you choose to see these events as merely highlights for what's happening inside. That's it. You want a massive transformation in your finances, your health, and your relationships and everything. Just start to use these things as ways to look inside and heal those parts. The guy and I went inwards and we're like, okay, wow, what we're really incapable of doing is asking for help. What we're really incapable of receiving is support. Now, the energy of money, by the way, is the energy of support. Can't have support, can't receive money. Right? So irony, right? Like independence, build a business, do everything on our own, blah, 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 great results. But there's a limit to that too, right? The gift also has a shadow. So Catherine, at the end of the day, and Jivan, like you want to talk about your blocks around money. There's an identity tied to how you live, to how you receive money, to how you receive your support. If you want to break through in these things, it's not going to happen from finding a new business opportunity or another MLM none of that is going to make a difference because the same pattern is going to run that business. Right? Like if you're struggling, this is what it comes down to. It's not reading another book. It's not getting another seminar. It's sitting with someone and unpacking the patterns. It's understanding like, oh my God, this is the pattern that's been holding me back all this time. And then going, okay, now that I know that, let's actually up level this, create a new program that gets to run, a new identity that I get to live from. And look, you've tried probably on your own. I'm telling you from my personal experience, it is very, very difficult and tricky to see these parts of us because the mind does not want you to see them. It just doesn't. So it just like will keep things hidden from you. So it doesn't matter where you turn, you're just not quite seeing it. And it takes someone very simply to just go like, hey, here. And then that thing moves to the forefront. And all of a sudden now you get to see that thing. And once you see that thing, your life is never the same. Ever. It doesn't matter. Like once there's an awareness of something and a language for something, your life is never the same. Mm-hmm. It's like, we use that example all the time. You can read 1 million books about riding a bike. You can watch 70,000 hours of the Tour de France. You can speak to Lance Armstrong. You can go to a seminar for 3 days where they discuss the bike. Is it going to make any difference of you getting on that bike and riding? No. You're still going to fall on your face. You still have to acquire the feeling of balance. That's on you. And the only way to do that is in connection, like in actual, doing it, not reading and exploring it. So for everyone that's struggling with money, I promise you, it has nothing to do with what you think it has to do with. Mm-hmm. Nothing. It has nothing to do with getting a different job, moving to a different place, my kid's this, my husband that. It has nothing to do with any of that.
You're still there. You're gonna enact the same patterns no matter where you go.
That's it. It does not matter. Mm-hmm. So like you say you want these results, you say you want this, but at the end of the day, it's like, ask yourself this question, am I looking in the right place? And if you've been asking this question for anything more than a year, that should be like a haha moment. I'm probably not asking the right questions. And that's not a bad thing. It's just like, that's the process, right? Like ask a whole bunch of series of bad questions till eventually someone wakes you up and goes, hey, you're probably looking in the wrong room. There. Like Wayne Dyer had that amazing story where it's like the person lost their keys and then the power goes out in the house. So they go out into the street and they're looking for their keys. And the neighbor comes over. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm looking for my keys. And he goes, well, where'd you lose them? He goes, I lost them in the house. And the neighbor's like, well, why are you looking out here then? He goes, well, there's no light in the house. There's light out here. And that's kind of what we do. We're like, we don't want to look inside because, yeah, it's dark. It's uncomfortable. But if you guys are here to truly have like breakthrough results, not slight tweaks of more, better, different, like breakthrough from here to here, that's going to take completely different work and asking completely different questions. So,
and I want to tell you guys, like, things take time. I think there is a tendency in the industry with coaches that it's like, bam, bam, like results overnight, like you're totally transformed. I've had those experiences. I'm not saying that they're not available. Quantum leaping transformation is absolutely something that happens, but it's like everything else. It happens because there was a solid foundation built and that you've done some work, and then suddenly it's like, boom, boom. I say Elon and I have worked really hard to make our lives very easy. That's kind of like where we're at with things. Like, things require effort, and it doesn't have to be like hard work. Also, breakthroughs don't have to feel painful. Like, I used to think that I had to go through pain in order to experience beauty, but I want to give you a little bit of a diagram, like in kind of how this works, right? So something that we know, this is science, something that we know now is like, and we have these sayings in very common language, like our gut instincts, or like, when you walk into a room, like you feel it in your guts, right? Like this kind of thing. We know now that in science, they call your gut your second brain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, scientifically speaking, when an embryo is developing, actually the stomach is there before the brain. In fact, the stomach forms first, and the brain actually like comes out of that area of the stomach. Something else that we know now is that your gut actually sends up 9 signals for every 1 signal that your brain sends down to your gut. Meaning there's 9 times more information coming out of your body going up to your brain than the brain is sending down into the body. So this gives us a little bit of insight into what's actually tuning into the environment, getting data, and that data is being received and then translated through a terminal, which we call the brain, right? But it's like what's receiving the data and what's actually responding. So the body is what's actually responding. So when people say like, I want to reprogram my subconscious, oftentimes they're trying to do it through understanding of the mind. They go to books, NLP, things like this. Fine. Okay. There's an aspect of that will absolutely transform your life. Elon and I have done many, many transformative shifts through paradigm shifting with our mind. But I could tell you, after doing that for well over a decade, the question that I kept coming back to is, yes, my life has turned out different. Yes, I'm amazing at creating results in my life. Yes, like I know how to take responsibility. There's integrity, right? These are very foundational things. I know how to go have conversations that completely shift my relationship with people. I know how to do all those things. Why is it that when certain things happen, I get angry without being able to control it? Why is it that inside this sadness, this heartbreak that I've been living with for 30 years, that hasn't shifted? That hasn't changed. And my identity is so wrapped up in this feeling that it was so frustrating to go like, I have all the training in the world. I've been doing this for a really long time. That's not changing. So I want to tell you what our understanding is at right now. And our understanding will continue to change as our wisdom changes with the experiences that we have. But this is where we're at after 17 years of doing this work. And like Elon said, working with tens of thousands of people, is that your environment brings in an experience. Your body at the subtle energy level is responding. There's something happening in your body. Your mind, whether you notice it or not, is noticing this. Okay? And it is not just noticing, but it's fixating on it. If you guys have ever had something that someone tells you that you don't like, and then you try to hide it, and you're like, ugh, I didn't like they said that. Like, I didn't like that Kyle just said that. And you're like, I'll hide it. I'll hide it within my system. And then like later in the day, Kyle or somebody else says something else, and it's like, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. You've been trying to restrain and hold this thing until you're like, ah! And you have one of these responses, or you don't, depending on how your system is organized, right? Maybe you shut down, maybe you go away, maybe you endure, maybe you start applying rules and trying to manage everybody. Like, depending again on how your system's organized, you're going to respond. So again, you have a sensation in your body, then you have a fixation from the mind. And the moment the mind starts fixating, the mind starts distorting reality. It starts telling you a story about what that sensation means. So for those of you guys who have dealt with heartbreak before, and you start going into an intimate relationship and they say something that you don't like, you start going into pattern. And the mind, again, starts fixating on the sensation in your body and starts distorting reality. It starts saying things about them. It starts saying things about you. It starts saying things about love, right? And these upsets start happening because these distortions are like sticking a pair of glasses on your face now, and it's the only way that you can see reality. So you guys know this. You wake up in the morning, right? And you have this like thing that upsets you. You stub your toe, you're stressed out about money, whatever it might be. By the end of the day, are you just like, oh, good, my toe hurt this morning? Or is it like, my health sucks, my relationships suck, my business sucks, I need to change what I'm doing, I got to move from where I am? It's like, it just becomes all encompassing because that distortion doesn't sit with one thing. It sits in your entire experience of life. So we might assume from this, if you're tracking this, that the only way for us to continue being in an empowered state is neutrality. And the only way to stick into neutrality is to actually be with what's happening in the body. Okay? And I'll give you the next little piece of this. Your body, whether you believe this scientifically or spiritually or any other way that you've determined this within yourself, that there is a divine force that we're connected to. I'm going to prove it to you in the most simplest way possible, okay? When you get a cut on your finger, do you sit there and manage how that cut mends itself? You don't, right? You just know that the body's going to take care of it. When a woman gets pregnant, do we have to sit there and tell the embryo how to grow? We don't have to do that. There's all these forms and functions within the human body, millions of things that it's doing, every single day, that there's zero input on your part. There's a divine intelligence to your body. There's a divine blueprint to your body. Imagine if you had to sit there and go, okay, like now I ate, so I got to send the proteins over here, the carbohydrates over here, the starch goes over here, and then we're going to just take a little bit of that, and we're going to add it over here, and we're going to grow new skin. You don't do that. But yet, when it comes to our day-to-day lives and the circumstances that we deal with, and energy is moving in our body just the same way. It's metabolizing energy. It's what it does. We have a lot of input. We tell, I don't like this. The gut is too fat. They're too scary. We give all this input. And here's what that happens. Every time that the mind gives input to what the body is feeling, the mind constricts how energy moves in your body. And this is going to go to some of the questions that I think it was Hilla had about her body, right? So like the mind constrains how the energy is moving because it's basically stopping the energy flow in the body. Now, you guys know this. If you eat food and you're putting energy into your body, right? This is a physical way of putting energy into our body. There's other ways we receive energy too, right? From love and nature and stuff like this. We've all experienced these things. If you put food into your body and you don't let that food come out because you're sick, you have, constipation, for lack of a better word, you're going to feel stress within your system, dis-ease, right? A lack of ease in your body. And that is going to lead to sickness. It is the same thing when we don't let energy move through our body of any form, any shape, any kind. So when you're experiencing some experience with another individual and that experience is putting you into pattern, and that energy, because you've learned to constrain it from the mind, it's trying to protect you, right? And it doesn't move. It's the same thing. It's creating stress in the body. You have a lack of ease in your system. And this is what actually starts you falling into these patterns. And I'm telling you guys this, the moment you fall into pattern, you're no longer there. You are now on some automated thing. Because when you were little, something happened, something that scared you, something that overwhelmed you, something that caused a lot of stress in your life. And in that moment, you had to come up with some kind of strategy to survive that stress. And you tried a lot of different things, but eventually you fell on something that worked for you, right? It's like dealing with a bully at school. First you try being their friends, then you try attacking them, or you try becoming friends with their friends. Eventually you find some kind of strategy that works to deal with the bully. And when you find that strategy, the mind goes, oh, good, that worked. Let's do that again. And then you keep applying this strategy over and over and over again until it's not even a strategy anymore. It's literally a pattern in your system. It's automated. You've put these grooves into this rock over and over again thousands of times. So the only way that we have found to unbind you from patterns is to trust in the same divine energy that would mend a finger or allow for a woman to grow an embryo inside of her body or any other of the functions, is that you start learning how to work with the body to actually metabolize the energy that's been stuck in most of you guys for decades. And the moment this energy starts to move, your body and your system reorganize, get new information and maps, and starts operating from a higher realm, period. That's just what happens. So our function as coaches is, like Elon said, is to show you, is to give you a mirror. Like that's what a great coach does. You're a mirror. So that you can see how the mind is working. So that you can get the mind out of the way. So that you can get into your body. And actually allow for experiences to move through so that the system can reorganize and come back to a more neutral state. From this neutral state, worthiness, easy. Abundance, easy. Love, easy. Healing, easy. Weight loss, easy. And I'm telling you, like, Elon and I are moving into our later 30s. not really.
I'm already there, bro.
I'm not even crying about it because it's like we've never felt better. And like, you could probably tell we're reasonably healthy men, right? Like we're in the best shape of our lives. Me, I fell off the wagon a little bit. I have an 8-month-old at home, and if any of you guys have little babies at home, you're not sleeping well. And if you're not sleeping well, you're already behind it, right? But like, Still, not bad. Working on that dad bod, right? And a few years ago, when we started working our energetic parts, at some point I felt something move in my system. And within about a month and a half, my body released. I'm not joking. I didn't do anything different. Elon can talk about his experience of this too. We've seen it with our clients as well. Within about a month and a half, I lost roughly 20 pounds. Not doing anything different. But you have to understand that for a lot of you guys, people who carry a lot of weight around, losing weight is a direct threat to the system and the automated patterns within their body. So why dieting doesn't work for them. Because they diet, they lose it, and then something gets triggered in the system the moment they lose too much weight, and the body goes, we're not safe, and it falls into automated patterns, which a lot of times looks like eating more food to try to create safety again, to try to cut the anxiety that's in the system, so to speak. So it is literally a direct threat to their survival. Until that part is worked, losing weight becomes very difficult, if not nearly impossible. So we had a client a few years ago, not even like last year, this guy Michael, and we did some of these practices with him within I think it was a 60-day period or
a 90-day period.
It was like a 90-day period. He dropped about 60 pounds of weight and has kept it off very easily, right? But here's the funny part. When he falls back into old patterns, you could see how like the weight literally mitigates itself back and forth. But every time he works apart, it becomes easier. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to answer some of the questions here. So Catherine was asking, what's my next steps? Catherine, like this is, it's so funny, like the human mind, again, what did I say in the beginning? Like we can only give you a taste of what we can do. If you're wanting to understand this stuff deeper, it's going to take me and you being on the phone, getting a better understanding of your story, giving you exercises to take on, giving you, whether it's meditations or practices or things like that. It's, again, like we're trying to give you guys as much as we can based on the information that we can. It's really, really difficult to say like, hey, do this, because this is why your brain's asking. The brain is asking, like, notice the question. It's like, hey, hey, Elon, give me the 4-step formula so I can sit in my house and reprogram all this stuff. There is no 4-step formula. I'll say it again so you can catch it. I'll slow it down. There is no 4-step formula, or a 3 or a 7 or a 9 or a 12. There just isn't. You're a unique individual. I'm a unique individual. Guy's a unique individual. Do you know that Guy and I don't coach each other? With all the stuff and wisdom that we don't coach each other. Ever. It's a rule. Why? Because like I am so emotionally invested. He's so emotionally invested. There's like so many things, right? We see each other through a very specific filter. Just like people in your life see you through a filter and you see people through a filter. So we're always looking for what? Reflection.
The cleanest reflection we can get.
Someone to hold the mirror. Yeah. Someone to hold the mirror to us and say like, hey, look, this. So what's happening for you, Catherine, is one thing. What's happening to Jivan is another thing, right? Now, it's possible that I'm going to share, hey, do this or do that with both of you, and it might circumstantially happenstance be the same. Chances are not, though. Chances are not.
Yep.
That's why, like, a book is only good enough to point to something. But it's very difficult. Like, how many of you guys have read a book? Follow this. How many of you read a book or watched a video or done something, and that thing has completely and utterly changed your life, and you've sustained that change? Maybe once, maybe twice, not more. Because I've read hundreds of books in this realm, and like, yeah, they all lead to something. They all point to something. But at the end of the day, if you're not on the court, if someone's not watching you on the court going, hey, here's this, here's that, this is what you're doing, this is how you showed up last week, this is why you're showing up this way this week. Did you notice that there's a pattern in the same way that you are with your kids, that you are with the boss, or the same way that you're neglecting your body, that you're like, that's the stuff that makes this stuff work.
And I want to point to it that it's real-time feedback.
Yeah.
When you don't play basketball and the coach like a month later is like, oh, I watched that tape of you shooting the ball here's what I would do different, right? At that point in time, it's not nearly as effective as while you're shooting the ball. It's like, hey, by the way, if you would just rotate things a little bit different. Elon plays tennis. He knows like the smallest little micro shift on the court while you're doing the thing is what makes the shift. So it's like, and sorry, bro, I didn't mean to gank it from you, but like, Catherine's talking about the type of energy healing. I don't even know. I wouldn't call what we do energy healing per se, and I don't know that what we do has a name, right? But because it's just something that we've learned that's naturally arisen in our system, getting a reflection from somebody who's keenly aware with energy, right? And has just showed us how to work our systems. But our systems are individual, have individual needs, right? And that's it. So you just like every basketball player on planet Earth, we're not trying to there's different people that come along every generation, and their skills dumbfound us because they're better than the skills that the generation before had. But no two players have the same skill set, even though they're all playing the same game. Yeah. Life is exactly the same thing. Like we are coaches. Like people don't like that word, but it's like we're coaches. We're just great fucking coaches. Like that's why people around us get awesome results because, and here's the bottom line is we've done the work. So
and continue to do the work.
Continue to do the work. Why? Because we want our reflection to get sharper, to get cleaner, right? So that when people are around us and they're working with us, that we know that we're giving them reflection from a place of integrity. We're not giving them reflection from our parts and our automation, and that's still happening, but it gets cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. That's why going to like a weekend certification to go become a coach, like Elon and I are like, cool, it's cool that a lot more people want to help everybody. And it's like, doing 2 days of work and then becoming a coach, like how clean is that reflection? So yeah sorry, bro.
So real quick, and Catherine, I'm not saying this, or to anybody else, I'm not saying this as like the only way to do this is to work with Satori Prime. I don't want you to hear it that way. Here's what I mean. Like, I've been doing this for 17 years. I always look to give people, I don't believe in shortcuts, but the most direct path, right? Look at what you guys have done in your life. Has the path that you're on produced the results that you are wanting? And if it hasn't, then it's time to choose a different path. And I can tell you only from my personal experience and the experience of the thousands of people that I coached, having someone be a mirror for you is the fastest, most direct way to have the results that you are most wanting in your life. And then people go like, well, I don't have the money. Okay, so you've come up with money for other things, right? When it matters to you and it's urgent to you, you figure out how. I don't believe money is like the most pathetic excuse ever. It really is. Because if someone was sick or your car died or you need to come up with it, you can come up with it. The bottom line, what you're saying is like, I am not worthy of investing this much in myself. That's ultimately it. And then you're like, well, why won't my finances come to fruition? And like, why won't I make all this money? Because you're not worthy. You say that you're worthy, but no action that you're taking is of worthiness. That's basically what it comes down to. And then the other disclaimer that I just want to make, and I want to read how is in our masterclass, and now his girlfriend's in our masterclass also, and it's How's birthday today. So happy birthday, my man. Love you. And he chose to be here. So he just dropped in this thing, which I think is really profound. Like, I think a lot of people go down this path of personal development thinking that like at some point, they're going to know all these things and their life is just going to turn out to be like roses and rainbows and gumdrops, and money will fall out of the sky all the time. And like the perfect man or woman will show up. Their kids will miraculously be like the most angelic human beings on planet Earth. Like, we all have this illusion that like at some point, it's all just going to be like awesome. And so Hal wrote this thing, and I just love it because I don't know, I've been on planet Earth for 38 years. I've had awesome runs. I've also had times that have been really, really difficult. With 17 plus years of personal development under my belt, guess what? I still deal with struggle. Whether it's in my relationships, whether it's with my kids, whether it's in, financial investment ideas, like life happens. So for me, it's like, what do we want to do? If we can get off the ride of the delusion that I'm going to do enough work where it's all going to be magical at one point, it's not. Let me break it to you. Sorry. Then what are we looking for? Like, what is the thing that we are most wanting? And this is kind of where I'm at, and like I see a lot of our clients are, and this is why I want to read what Hal wrote. It's what you're seeking is the ability to find center, to find peace, and to stay in alignment when all that stuff is happening, but it's not affecting you. Not that it's not affecting you, you can actually use it as fuel to increase your growth in that moment, where you see the value in all the stuff that's happening and you're not being thrown off course by the littlest thing for a week or a month or a year or God knows how many years, right? Where you can just witness all of it. It's there, it's happening, but you're not getting impacted by it. So Hal wrote, hey guys, just wanted to pop in and say what's up. It's my birthday today and things have been going less than stellar. 6 months ago, I'd probably be kicking and screaming, but the work I've done with you guys has kept me centered through all of it and so hyper-focused on how I'm being and what I get to do from the challenges that come up. I'm breathing fresh air through all of it and loving life. Appreciate y'all. Breathe that in for a second. Like, what if that was your existence to life?
Mm-hmm.
What if the struggles around money you found joy and peace in? Because that's the only way to get out of them, by the way. What if the struggles in relationships or with your health, you stopped struggling and fighting and actually accepted and enjoyed? Because that's the only way to get through them. And you notice, like, we have this notion of, like, if I just got rid of this one part of me, or if I just fixed this one thing in my life, everything would be so good.
So good.
So good.
So good.
We had we work with this couple every once in a while, and they were telling us, like, they hit a huge milestone in their business, like massive, where the wife got to be home with their child. Like, they had this year-long goal, and working with us, they accomplished it in 3 months. Because in their mind, it was like, oh my God, this is it. Like, this is the thing that would blow our mind would be to do this and, like, me run this and her be there and blah, blah, blah. And here we are 9 months later, and we're having a conversation like it's not working. You know, like, she's here, he's there, and, like, stuff comes up. Right now, stuff's coming up about the relationship. There's, like, resentment there, things like that. The things that you think are going to make you happy, you have no idea. You just have no idea. So it's like, after this struggle, you'll fix that thing, and there's going to be another one, a bigger one right afterwards. And it's going to derail you just the same, unless you do this kind of work. You do this kind of work, and then it's like life keeps happening. But you're just like the calm little, to quote Tyler Durden, you're like the calm little center of it all. Focused, aligned, peaceful. Because in that state, here's the thing, like, when you're derailed, when you're upset, when you're frustrated, when you're angry, have you ever produced awesome results in your life? If you have, we need to talk, because I have not met a human being that has ever. Because your energy attracts certain energy, right? So now if life is happening and you're finding peace and groundedness and centeredness and well-being inside all of it, that's like next level. Next level, next level, and these things just shed away, and then new, brilliant things come into your life. Gifts come into your life. Light comes into your life. Love comes into your life. Peace, fulfillment, purpose, passion, amazing humans. Like, to me, that's what this game is all about. And so, again, like, I got to leave here in a minute, but I just want to say, like, to all of you, if that resonates with you, like, you're feeling that little, like, vibration in your heart right now, and it's like, ooh, that feels kind of, I don't know.
So good.
Yeah, so good. Then I dropped the link, but Guy, you can drop it in there again. satoriprime.com/masterclass. I'd love the opportunity to get on a call with you and really, really go deep and share some more of this wisdom that's personal to you, so that you can go out and live a kick-ass life, truly. Because these things are going to keep happening and keep showing up. It's how you show up in the face of them that's going to make all the difference. So don't be like, the Chinese finger trap where you're like fighting. That's possibly you right now. Like you're fighting. I'd love to just give you the opportunity to just like, just release and then be with what is. So I'll leave Guy here with you guys. Look forward to speaking to as many of you as possible. Thank you all for being here and you're listening. How happy birthday again. And love you guys. Talk to you soon.
Awesome, broski. Thanks for being here.
Bye.
Awesome. So let me just scroll back through. Kyle. Question. Sure. All right. So I know, Michelle, you had a question about working on a novel. I'm sure that we touched upon it in some way, shape, or form. So I'll kind of take some of these questions and talk about the conglomeration. So Michelle said that she's been working on a novel, but she seems unmotivated. I believe a combo of procrastination, procrastinating fear of both failure and success. How can I get over the hump? This is a fiction novel. My next will be nonfiction spirituality. Michelle, if you're still here, let me ask you: are you like lit up about what you're writing, or is it just like treachery and you're just hard work? Was interesting. Kyle said, when you talk about your feelings, things through the body, what does it mean? There's very dense and heavy energies and sensations below the ribs or the different. I find that things bump into it from underneath and can't get through. So answers. Oh, you guys can't hear me. Okay. Can you guys just give me feedback? Is it still doing that right now? I'm just not know. Okay. Let me try to refresh. Sorry, guys. Okay, fixed now. Awesome. All right, cool. I'm not really sure why that happened. Hopefully that's fixed. Beautiful. Thank you for letting me know about that. So I've read a few people's questions about Michelle and her book. Michelle, if you want to give me some feedback, if you're still here, about what's happening with your book, like the other book that you want to write, does that feel more in alignment with you than what you're doing right now, or are you working through? I love this chat box right now. It's so funny. Anyway, look, since a lot of you guys asked specific questions on the energy front, Kyle asked about like specific energies in his diaphragm over here. So first of all, Kyle, really good awareness on where energy is. I want to let you know that it's like human beings, we are unbelievably complex machinery, right? It's still strange. Dang it. I'm going to try to unplug and replug in, see if that changes anything. All right. Is that working? Can you guys hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Yeah? Woohoo! All right, cool. Awesome, guys. Thank you for sticking with me. I've never had that happen before, so I'm not sure what did that. Beautiful. All right. So the great part is we have sound back. The bad part is I lost the entire chat box, so your questions are not in there. Feel free to drop more questions in there. We still have about 25 minutes to hang together. Anyway, look, here's what I want to tell you. When it comes to energy systems in the body, right? And if I'm sitting with somebody, what I have become adept at over the last 3 years is tracking people's systems in real time. And anybody can do this. Again, it's in the subtle energy space, which is why most of us don't notice it. If you don't know what I mean by subtle energy, I'll give you a quick diagram of this. There are 4 major energy sectors that we can connect to on our path to enlightenment, so to speak. The first is gross sensation. If you're having a gross sensation, what this means is like if you just notice yourself right now, viewing life, through the way that you do, notice that you don't actually notice that you have a body there, right? Like you're not like, oh, my head and my arms or anything like that. As I mention them, you're probably putting some awareness on them, and then you start noticing your head. But if you really want to notice your head, I can grab like a baseball bat or something, like clock you on the head, and suddenly you're going to really, really notice that you have a head, right? You're like, oh, my head. Same thing when we have like a headache or a cut or anything else like that. Suddenly it's like we get fixated on that sensation, right? Like pain is a sensation that makes us very fixated. I like to call pain pay attention in the now. And that's really what pain is. It's something that is drawing and calling your attention. It wants you to notice that something is happening. It's a really beautiful tool. It's less beautiful when we couple it with suffering. So pain and suffering can be 2 completely different things. Something that I'm very proud of. I actually just said this to my wife this morning. What I'm really noticing that's a huge differentiating factor in my life today is that I can be in pain and not suffer. Like yesterday, we've had about 3 days of very, very little sleep. My little one's been sick. And I had this raging headache yesterday. And I just noticed, I'm like, yeah, there's a headache, but I wasn't really suffering about it. I didn't pop any Advil. I wasn't even trying to do anything about it. I could just be with the experience. And that was my experience yesterday. My perfect experience yesterday was having a headache and being tired. So that's gross sensation. At the more subtle levels of the body, where we have subtle sensations. And again, all you guys can do this. I'm going to prove it to you right now. It's very, very simple. If you just take one of your hands, either your right or your left hand, and you put it up like this. And what I'm going to ask you to do is to just put your attention on your hand. Not to look at your hand, but just put attention on your hand. And then notice what you notice about your hand. Since I can't interact with you directly, I'm going to give you a few seconds here. Just put your attention on your hand. And what you might notice about your hand is that you start noticing almost like a vibration in there, or heat, or some people experience coolness or something. But the bottom line is you're experiencing increased sensation in your hand right now. What I want you to notice about this is that your attention, we say where your attention goes, energy flows. So in the subtle realms of our body where we put our attention, we can actually start noticing the subtle changes in energies that are moving through our bodies, through different experiences. This is subtle energy, okay? From there, we have what's called super subtle or causal. This is a lot of times what people experience when they're doing psychedelics. They'll also experience the next level, which is called non-dual. And non-dual is where it's like the oneness, I'm part of it all. And that's the reality. We really are part of it all. So with some of the questions that you guys had about the energy space, what we work with the subtle energy space. And when you start doing that, I know that the person who's sitting in front of me, as I help them track their system and attune to them and actually are tuning them, that like for you, Kyle, you asked about a certain energy sector in your body. Whatever you intuitively tell me that is connected to, that's the truth. You don't need a diagram for this. You don't need a book to tell you when your heart, like this and like that. But here's like a very simple breakdown. If you're having increased sensation in your stomach, you're probably dealing with fear, right? This is the very, very, very young part of ourselves. This is what gets scared. This is why when you go on roller coasters or you've gone through a big drop or you're in a room and you feel uncomfortable, generally speaking, you're going to feel a collapse in your stomach. This means you're afraid. Some very young part of you is getting activated right now. And again, it's getting scared, right? If you have a heavy chest, again, you guys intuitively know this. This means that you're sad, right? So when there's increased sensations in your heart area, you want to ask yourself, what am I sad about? And up here in the mind, this is generally when people have increased sensation up here, they're angry about something. So again, if you want to kind of like tune into yourself, it's like stomach sensation. What am I afraid of? Heart sensation. What am I sad about? Head sensation. What am I angry about? And then whatever you say intuitively, if you would just sit there and ask your question and tune in, you'll probably get that answer. So, for Kyle, like, I don't know specifically what it means for you. And here's what I could tell you. Ultimately, it really doesn't matter. The question is, and kind of what we've been talking about in great detail here, at least summarizing and pointing at, is that the healing happens when you have the ability to actually feel through that energy. And what that looks like is, I want you guys to notice that when you're having certain experiences in life, okay, like any experience, and something upsets you, this is specifically overwhelm, anxiety, stress, anger, things of these natures, is that you are having some kind of experience in the body, and what you've been taught is to manage it. Okay. Now, I want you to kind of picture this, like visualize this if you can, or listen to what I'm saying, or feel into it, depending on whether you're a visual person, a person who likes to listen, like auditory or kinesthetic. So if you're visual, visualize this. If you listening to things, then hear what I'm saying. And if you're kinesthetic, feel what I'm saying. When you're upset, it's the same thing like a little kid coming to you in an upset. We have this like misnomer that when you've become an adult, that you're no longer a child, that you're somehow like superseded the child. But the reality is most adults, or if not all adults that I've ever met, including myself, are just upset children. And they just happen to be in bigger bodies. And they now play a game with all these responsibilities. That's pretty much the only difference. But the reality is the same upsets that you had when you were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old are the same upsets that you carry with yourself now as an adult. You might have adult language to describe them, to talk about them, to analyze them. But the reality is, if you're like, oh, I'm not worthy, inside the system, it's I'm bad. Right? It's like the moments that as a kid you felt that I'm bad, I'm no good. Or, however, like that's very, very simple language. So I want you to imagine that when you're getting activated in your system, it's like the little boy or little girl of you coming to your adult and saying, I need attention right now. And your adult in all its wisdom looks at the child and says, get away from me. Because that's really what we do. We have these subtle sensations in our body, which are really the programs that we developed as children in order to survive life. And then as an adult, we thought that we're not supposed to have those things. So when they arise in our system, instead of being with them the way that you would with a child, you actually manage them. You push them down, you grab a drink, you go have some sex, you do all the things that people do to avoid these discomforts in their life, right? We all do this. We all have these different addictions and allergies to things that we've developed over the years. And this is how you deal with your anxiety and your stress and all these other parts. So if there's one thing that I can leave you with from this webinar that's absolutely useful, is that the sensations within you are calling your attention. And they want you to be with them the way that you would be with a child that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. All you got to do, right? Like I have an 8-month-old at home. And when he gets stressed out, his nervous system is underdeveloped. And that's why he's got to leverage mom and dad to soothe his system. So when you're holding a baby, you're not like, stop crying. That would be ridiculous. I could totally get why people get really stressed out and do this, right? And like accidentally hurt their children or something like that. But it's like, you're basically just holding the child and you're just being with it. You're not necessarily doing anything. You're just holding space. You're being present. You're paying attention and you hold the baby. And the moment, I can tell you, the moment that you lose attention with the child knows. And the child starts getting upset again because children they're not applying intellect to any part of life. They are kinesthetic beings that are just feeling through everything. This is the truth for all of us. We are kinesthetic beings who feel through everything, who have been taught not to feel through anything. So most of you guys have been doing personal development because this is how I did it. I was doing it to try to make myself feel better. I was really depressed through my teenage years. I was even suicidal and attempted it on various occasions. And that was a very real thing for me from about 12 to 19 years old. I lived in a very, very dark reality that was stark, and I wanted out. So, I have those parts in my system. And when I started doing personal development work, and I did start feeling better, but my focus was on, hey, I'm doing this because I'm making myself feel better. And then there would be an attachment to feeling better. And when I didn't feel better, I thought things weren't working. I thought I wasn't working, or I was messing things up, or, whatever, or that like what I was doing wasn't working. And I got to go read another book. I got to go take another course. I got to go do all these things. So I want to change your focus a little bit, that the work that you're doing, the inner work that you're doing with yourself, and it's really just yourself. If you are circumstantially trying to change your partner, your kids, anything outside of yourself, I could tell you it's a fool's errand. The only thing that matters is the work that you're doing internally. You are going to immediately see a reflection shift in your reality as you do your work inside. If you don't feel well inside, your reality is not going to show up well. If you don't feel worthy inside, reality is not going to reflect a life that's worthy when a person doesn't feel worthy. It's bottom line. The only thing that matters is the work that you do inside. Our clients are dumbfounded when they're having problems with their kids, and we're like, don't do anything with your kids. And they're like, what? We're like, it has nothing to do with your kids. It has to do with your childhood, the things that you've programmed into your system. I don't want to call them trauma, just the things you've programmed into your system. Parts of you that don't feel safe, that don't have well-being, and your children, who are perfect energy beings, are picking up on that, are reflecting that to you, and are here trying to teach you the lessons that you didn't learn when you were growing up. You haven't learned them yet. And that's why your kid's acting that way. Then they bring safety into the system, and the kid just starts acting completely different. I've seen firsthand of this with my wife's sister has a 7-year-old boy who a year ago when I met him literally could not look at you in the eyes, was one of the most shut down children I ever met, and it hurt my heart. And of course you want to help the child. But when I started getting to know his sister, right, because I'm pretty still new to the family, I realized she doesn't have safety and well-being. We started doing a little bit of work on safety and well-being. You've never seen a more self-expressed child in your life. He comes to my home and throws off his clothes and runs around in underwear right now. And it's just like, he's a vision of one of the most amazing children I've ever met now. That happened in 2 or 3 months. So again, going back to what I said, the reality is for all of us is that we don't meet the energy in our body with kindness and compassion and love and space and presence. And because of that, it acts out the patterns that are in there. If you want to unbind yourself, start with these things. Start with actually meeting your system with love and compassion. Notice that there's something judging, and you don't have to manage that either. This is a good writer downer if you are taking notes while you're on this webinar. There's kind of like 3 aspects to your mind that you can look at, right? So your mind kind of works in these 3 ways, and you guys have heard different aspects of this probably in what you've read, but I want to make it really simple for you. You have the critical mind, right? The critic, the inner critic. Most of you guys live here. You think that's who you are. And I just want to give you a little clue. You're listening to the critic. You're not the critic. And if you're the one listening to the critic, that means you're not the critic. Okay? That doesn't mean you have to stop listening to the critic or do anything about the critic. Just notice that you're hearing criticism. You're actually hearing it. And you think a lot of you guys think those are your thoughts. It's not. It's a mechanism of your mind that's doing this. I also want you to notice that what it's critical about is the same things that your parents were critical about. Whether it was critical about themselves, critical between themselves, or critical about you, and you subconsciously adopted those criticisms, and now you say those things to yourself. This is why when you're around mom and dad, and they say that thing that you say to yourself, you lose your shit, because there's the physical manifestation of your inner critic. And there's nothing that we despise more than the inner critic, right? So you have your inner critic, you have your inner praiser, what praises you. This is usually very underdeveloped for most people. They don't hear a lot of positive language within themselves. Some of you guys, maybe you do. Some of you guys maybe don't. And then we have this like final one that might be the most important one. I would actually say this is the closest thing to your true self, which is the witness mind. And the witness mind is a non-judgmental mind. It judges nothing at all. It just watches. And if you notice, whether you're dreaming or in any other state that you've ever been in, psychedelics or anything else, there's always a witness there, and you never disappear. Even when you dream, it's the same you that's here right now listening to this is the same you that's watching that dream. There's this witness, this non-judgmental witness. So for those of you guys who are asking questions about energy and you want to try this, I think Jivan, last time you tried this, and she's been having like miracles happen around abundance and wealth, and she was like really stuck just 2 weeks ago. And she's here again, I think, because of that, because she's like, holy shit, things are happening. Why? Because when energy moves, everything changes. And energy starts moving when we allow it to be, and we start trusting in the divine force of our body that is connected and knows what it's doing, and it doesn't need our feedback. So as energy arises in your system, if at the bare minimum what you get from this webinar is watch it without judgment, watch it in a state of just lovingness, just be with it, because that's what it's requesting, I promise you're going to see massive changes in your life. And here's the best part, guys. This requires zero thought on your part. You don't have to take any courses on this, and you don't have to read a book. The only thing I'm inviting you to do is to notice that there's energy in your body and just watch the energy. It's helpful to be quiet and sit in meditation, obviously, while you're doing this. And if you watch that energy move, I promise you're going to see huge shifts in your body, huge shifts in your life. Howard asked, I have a question. If there's time at the end, you mentioned on a podcast that healing happens when the sensations in your body shift and change. I'm paraphrasing. That's funny because that's what I just talked about. But what comes after awareness that starts to shift those sensations? Okay, so I'm not 100% clear, but again, I want to just harp a little bit more than on what I was saying. So there is nothing after awareness. Guys, that's what we are. We are an awareness. And we're watching an unfolding, but the unfolding that you're watching is not an out there unfolding. It's a you unfolding. I know it sounds philosophical, right? But it's like the thing that's making it's like, what's the sound of one hand clapping, right? It's called the koan. The thing, it's like the answer to the sound of one hand clapping is the sound of one hand clapping is the sound of one hand clapping. Literally, reality is being generated from within you. When you get to higher and higher states, you realize that all the universe literally is coming out of you. It's within you. When you sit in meditation for very, very long periods of time, silent meditation, I've done this, I could tell you that what you immediately start recognizing is that the entire universe operates identically to the way that your inner body works. There's no difference. Which means that if you want to understand everything in the universe, all you have to do is go within your body and start learning from within. And suddenly all these secrets of the universe start becoming really apparent to you. Even the things that physics are trying to figure out, even things that quantum physics are trying to figure out, what most of science has tried to figure out, the great yogis have known for thousands of years, right? Yoga in its tradition is a science. And they've discovered this not because they have tools to analyze it or anything else like that. And that's going to help us because those tools are coming. But they've the anecdotal evidence of actually feeling those sensations within your body and knowing that they're connected to the entire universe is why they're so enlightened. That is what waking up means. So I know I'm kind of like going real big picture, and I'm only doing this because Elon's not here, and he generally likes me to stay a little bit lower down. But I think like if you're on this webinar and if you're around Elon and myself, you're ready to hear this kind of stuff. All this stuff is going to become very natural for the people of this planet sooner than you think. This is coming in the next 5 or 10 years. There's a huge movement. It's called the integral movement. And I promise you, in the next decade or two, you're going to see a massive change in literally the philosophy of our planet and how we connect energetically. And that love and compassion will be the guiding force that drives this planet versus, fear and all the other things and scarcity that have run it for so long. So a lot of you guys are looking at those systems within yourself, and I'm honoring you for being here and being part of this conversation. Almost all of you guys stuck around. So maybe as ethereal as this all might sound, this is very scientific. This is quantum physics 101. It will be, I promise you, very, very shortly. And when we get there, you guys are at the cutting edge of looking at not just evolving yourself, but helping the entire planet evolve. Because the more we don't have to do work on people. It's so important for you guys to get that. We don't work on people. We help them work on themselves. We help them love themselves. We help them find compassion within themselves. We help them heal the old energy in the old parts that many of you guys are talking. Yeah, Benjamin, Ken Wilber, awesome resource for Integral, right? Awesome resource for this. But it's not enough to just go read the book and understand, oh, there's this thing called Integral. It's actually going into your system and working the parts that have the old energy that are hooking you into fear and scarcity. So I want you guys to get, because a lot of you guys are asking, how do I produce better? How do I produce more? How do I produce different in my life? Here's what I want you to get. 2 things that I said. Stop trying to make yourself feel better. Get better at feeling. That's number 1. Stop trying to make yourself feel better. Get better at feeling. And what I've outlined over the last 20 minutes or so is how to get better at feeling. I know that's a question that a lot of men come to us with now. I think women are a little bit more adept at this, probably a lot more adept at this. And I'm so proud that men are coming out and asking this question. Like, I'm sick of not feeling. How do I feel more? Because this is going to change a lot, right? But women need help with this too. And I'm not saying I'm the prodigal son of this, but we're working on it. And it's growing very, very rapidly. That's number 1. Number 2 is you think that the actions that you're taking are correlated to the results. And I want you to get, it's not. Like, we built big businesses, right? We made a lot of money for a long time. And I could tell you my experience while doing that is it's not the action that's important. Again, this is old energy. That's old teaching. That was true for a time, but we're transcending that time. And while we can see evidence of that still, and I'm not saying it's completely untrue, I'm saying the results that most of you guys want, hear me, I really hope you hear this or feel this or visualize this, depending on how your system works, is that it's not about the actions that you're taking. It's about the quality of the energy that's behind the action that's going to be related to your results. I'll say that one more time. It's the quality of the energy behind the action that's going to get you those results. You guys know this. You send a text message to somebody, right? But it's like that text message was like you wanted to stick the knife in them. You're a little bit angry or you're hostile. Now you type out the text message and you're like, hey, I just wanted to let you know I miss you. And they're like, what do you mean you miss me? And they respond and you're like, whoa. You're like, all I said is I miss you. And you guys start talking about the languaging. But what did they feel? They felt you doing this. They felt the quality of the energy behind the action they're responding to. And you're like all innocent. You're like, hey, I didn't write that. Look at what I wrote. And it doesn't matter what you wrote because it's the quality of the energy behind what you wrote that ultimately matters. And this is true for everything that you guys do. So with How and what he shared before, and I saw that connected for a lot of you guys, he can sit in his center. He can still be neutral while things around him seem to be falling apart. Because something you start noticing when you sit in the center, when you sit in alignment, is that things falling apart does not mean that there's no alignment. In fact, they oftentimes fall apart when you're in alignment because that's old energy there. And when you shift your energy, if there's money that you made with old energy and you're in a new alignment, guess what? That money is no longer connected to that energy in alignment. And it's going to go away and it's going to come back in a new way that's going to feel so much more in alignment for you, right? Like Michelle, that's why I want to see about Michelle and her book, because she's probably writing that book right now out of some necessity or some idea that maybe wasn't in alignment. And maybe that next book that she mentioned is absolutely in her alignment and it would flow out of her like river water. It'd be easy. And she's struggling right now. When people tell me that they're procrastinating and struggling, I'm like, yeah, you don't love what you're doing. It's really simple. And if you started feeling into what it is that actually feels good for you right now, and you can only really know like an inch in front of you what actually feels good, and start walking to that, you're going to start seeing this like magical, synchronistic unfolding happening in your life. Most people literally do not have the courage to follow what feels good in their life. They follow what scarcity and fear say because that's what they were told. You got to do this. You got to settle down. You got to get the job. You got to do that. You got to get Social Security. And their lives are really small, and they're filled with fear. And then they drink a lot, and they do all those things, but they don't live the true sense. And I'll leave you guys with this last piece and make the invitation one more time. One of the biggest shifts for me when I started really following what I love, I was studying what happens to people on their deathbed. Not because I'm morbid or anything else like that. I was genuinely curious. What do people think about in their last moments before they pass? Because there's got to be a lot of clarity when you know there's no tomorrow. And there's two things that became really prevalent while I wrote up case studies on this. Number one, and this is both in like the 95th percentile, so I'm telling you with great accuracy what people believe. Number one is people don't regret what they've done. They regret what they haven't done. Okay, they regret what they've done. I'm sorry, they don't regret what they've done. They regret what they haven't done. And number two is most people feel on their deathbed that they live their life to make other people happy, never truly making themselves happy. Again, 95th percentile. So 95 out of 100 people believe this. A question I asked myself when I realized that was, tomorrow's not a guarantee. And if I went to bed tonight and thought about it like my last day on earth, what are those two things? What haven't I done that I regret? I would get working on that because tomorrow's not a guarantee. This is not a practice life you're living. This is it. This is the big show. You might as well get working on that. And number two, right? If you're making other people happy, and that's the only reason why you're living, there might be some quote unquote difficult choices that you get to make in order to start living a life that's more in alignment with who you actually are, so that you can start enjoying life in a way that most people are yet to comprehend. But I promise you, this shift is coming. All right, guys, I know we went a little esoteric the last 30 minutes. I hope you enjoyed it. Trying to give you as much as I can. Guys, we love you very much. Again, if you are resonating with what we're saying, even if you don't completely understand what I'm saying, but you're like, shit, this feels true for me, then I'm telling you right now, you're ready to come work with us. There is some really good work to be done. You will be shocked at how much headway you can make in a few months, like how different the quality of your life can actually be. But it starts with setting a new foundation. And that conversation with Elon is all about looking at, hey, let's look at these different areas of life. Let's look at what's not working. Let's look where you want to go. Let's teach you how to set a foundation so that when you're building that, you're not building it from the old parts. You're building it from this new energy that's on our planet, this new energy that's available to all of us. So if you're ready for that ride, remember that the questionnaire that's there is 100% risk-free. We have you pay a $99 show-up fee because we know that you'll show up with a lot more attention and intention than somebody who just shows up for free. So satoriprime.com/masterclass. If you end up in one of our courses, we'll credit you that $99. If you don't, we'll just refund you the $99. So you really have nothing to lose. Guys, thank you so much for your time. We know that that's the most valuable asset that you have. We're honored that you chose to invest that with us today. To close out the webinar, I'm just going to play another reel of our clients talking about different experiences that they have, so you hear it from them, not just from Elon and myself. We love you so much. If you have any questions at all, do not hesitate to even reach out privately to Elon or myself. We're very available on Facebook, or if you just have like a more general question, support@satoriprime.com. If it's appropriate, our team will forward those questions to us anyway. So we're happy to give you feedback if we can. Again, thank you for being here. Love you very much. And check out this reel. You guys are free to stay as long or as little as you like. And we will see you next time. Thanks for being here.
Hey friends, I want to take a second to share the massive shift my wife and I have experienced in our chiropractic office. We literally did not change any of our procedures, and we increased our office collections over 50% in the past couple of months. We're doing the same exact thing, and our conversion rate went from about 60% to 90% for everybody that walks into our office, and we've increased our prices and are still closing a higher percentage and being able to help more people in their health. I made the shift internally and the results came naturally. And what's awesome is we don't do any contracts in our office, and our retention rate has gone through the roof. Now that I've done the personal work and overcome so many things and emotions that I was dealing with, including anxiety, I no longer wanted to come into the office because I was stressed out from all the confrontation that I may have to address that day. I was burnt out. I just didn't see any hope or future in the office because it felt like it was a revolving door. Since we don't do contracts, people were starting and then very quickly dropping out. And although I'm still doing the same adjustments and the same technique, our retention has gone through the roof. We're no longer having those dropouts. And I thought that I was able to hide my emotions and hide my energy, but the results showed otherwise because people were discontinuing. So I know they were able to pick up on that. And now that I've felt that shift inside, I look forward to coming to the office. I work longer hours if I would like to, because I'm not trying to avoid it at all costs. I communicate better with my wife in the office, since we both work in the office now that we're doing the work together. And it's just been so much fun. And we had a record week last week, and we would not have been able to do it if it was not the work that we were doing with Satori Prime. They show us the way, and it's our responsibility to take the action and do the things we get to do to get to where we want. There's no doubt that this has absolutely changed my life, changed my wife's life, changed my child's life, and all the lives of the people we're now able to impact with a new renewed excitement and passion for the office. I'm excited to keep working with Guy and Alon and all of their coaches on this journey. And if I could give any advice, it would be to take action as soon as you are ready, or as soon as you can, even before you're ready, so that the results that you're looking for in life aren't delayed. The sooner we take action, the sooner we get to where we want to be. And it doesn't have to be hard. We just get to do the work, and the results will come naturally. I love you guys, and I hope that you have an amazing journey just like I have.
Before I had started with Satori Prime, I was caught in cycles of just negative thoughts where I didn't think I was worthy of being able to achieve things that I really wanted to achieve. I was feeling depressed. I had very little income coming in, but I just knew that what I had heard from actually Guy on a podcast with people I follow, the things he was saying about conquering yourself, or not so much conquering, but figuring out what walls you have to break through in order to move on in your life and achieve the things you want to, that really spoke to me. And one of the biggest things that's helped change my life is the learning how to realize thoughts are just that, thoughts. And then on top of that, realizing that the difference between me achieving what I want to achieve and not doing so is all up to me. I can do this. I truly believe that I can do anything, and that the sky really is the limit. And to give you evidence of it, I started with them with just the idea that I wanted to have a gym in 3 months. So my goal was by May 23rd to have a gym opened up with a minimum of 10 members that I would receive by the time May 23rd hit. On May 5th, I officially opened my gym with 7 members. In the next 2 weeks, I don't even know, because I'm not trying to plan it, but I anticipate having between 10 and 15 members in the gym by the day that I had set for myself. I've exceeded the expectations, and it's all because Guy and Elon have helped me to discover what I'm really capable of, and helped me to shine my light throughout the town that I'm in. So I can't recommend it enough to you. If you're even considering this, pull the trigger and do it.
I knew I wanted to create some kind of ripple effect in the world and make some kind of massive change, but I had blocks I had to get past before I was confident enough to do that. These two have brought in such radical, life-altering ideas that completely have changed my perspective and the way I view the world. Tools that they've given me to quiet the chatter in my mind, to work in flow, to use those flow states and intuition to really grab hold of creating new possibilities for myself. And that has a ripple effect on everyone in my life, everyone I come in contact with. I don't care whether it's a friend, a coworker, a client. You want to massively affect an entire chain of people. They truly, truly live what they're teaching, and my life is totally massively upgraded. I love working with these guys.
You know, I was just thinking about you both over the weekend, and I'm like, these gentlemen probably have no idea, like, the transformation that they're helping another human being with, somebody that they don't know. Never could I have thought that the journey that we were getting on together would put me where I am. So, like, I can just truly feel how much you care about me and how you want to see me be the best version of myself and who I want to be. And working with like a coach and people who you've never met before, the fact that I truly have a love for you guys after working with you for like whatever, like 2 or 3 months, is just amazing. And I'm I'm kind of like a little bit of a manly man, especially when I'm interacting with other men. So like the fact that I could even get on here and say that to you guys is like a big deal for me. So thank you. I've always been chasing the material things, and like that's what it's always been about for me. And now it's so much more. And now my mission is just not a mission of acquiring material things, but it's really just a mission of finding peace and love and harmony with myself and all the people that I care about. And I know that if I do that, all the other shit's gonna come. Not about, getting on a diet to look good, or, building the Amazon business so I can make $1 million a year. It's not what it's about. And so that really opened up for me. I feel incredible. I really, really feel incredible. And then lastly, I came home and I saw my wife last night, and I started crying because I saw her. I saw her for all the reasons I fell in love with her. And I had never seen her that way. I'd never seen her that way. It was just such an amazing moment that we had. And just to be there with her and just experience all the reasons I fell in love with her, all the history we have together, just without question the woman that I want to be with for the rest of my life. I mean, you want to talk about a gift? Who cares about the money, the job? I mean, that right there, that's what life is about. That's what this is all about. You can't, I was saying this, I was I can buy the nicest car, the nicest house, I will never get that feeling. If I told you I bought a BMW, do you think I would choke up? No. Mercedes-Benz, a mansion? No. I'd be look at me. But telling you that I saw my wife for for who she really was and just being so in love in that moment, I can barely even get through it. So I just feel so powerful, so I just feel just such a sense of love and just gratitude, and I'm in just such an amazing place right now. Such an amazing place.
So during those very challenging times, I had actually started listening to Guy and Elon's podcasts. And I had started implementing the exercises that they recommend, worked on my mindset, started doing those little shifts. But I knew that for me to get the full experience, it was time for me to take that leap and start working with them more directly. So, needless to say, towards the end of last year, my business kind of fell apart. I was struggling with depression. I was struggling with finding true happiness. And the thing that is what I thought would provide me true happiness was income and buying specific things. So I had I have the fancy car, I had the high-rise apartment, I had all these different things that I thought would provide me that true fulfillment. But inside I was still this upset, unhappy individual. Provided me this new insight that, true happiness comes from within. Guys, I can't even begin to explain how impactful and how much love I have for these two guys, because they have literally revolutionized my life, changed everything around, and there's been some incredible things that have happened. So more specifically, I've been able to utilize this information that I gathered in these tools to find that true inner happiness. And I have learned in this journey to ultimately be myself and have that self-confidence and not worry about what other people think of me. My mom came home and she was very upset, and she actually sought advice from me. And with the tools and the information that I've gained working with Guy and Elon, I was able to get her on the right track and follow what she was truly passionate about. Sure enough, that very next day, she went in there and put in her 2 weeks to Target, and now she's her own boss. So it was absolutely incredible to not only be able to impact my life, but be able to take that information and share it with others, and especially be able to impact a family member of mine. She's extremely happy. She seeks advice from me from different things, but I've never seen her so happy, because now she's her own boss. She's completely booked, and she's actually making more money with her business than what she was working at Target. I used to struggle, and I'm sure a lot of people can probably relate to me, can probably relate in this specific area. During the day, maybe you're working long hours, 10 to 12 hours, but then you reflect back on what you accomplished during those 10 to 12 hours, and you realize wow, maybe I didn't really get that many things done. And that was something that I realized that was happening each and every day for myself. So me and Guy and Elon, we had a conversation. They said the most important thing to do is focus on the things that provide you true fulfillment and work on those things when you feel it is right for you. I've been able to take a 10-hour time frame where I would get a handful of things done within that 10 hours, and I have now crunched it down to a 2 to 3 hour time frame. I want that work-life balance. And, that was some of the things that I was struggling with was, getting my tasks accomplished on time and everything like that. So, guys, I promise you, you are going to have an incredible experience working with Guy and Elon, and that's just it. Your story is going to be different, and the things that you experience is going to be different than what I've experienced. But I can promise you and I can offer that it's going to be the most incredible experience for you to work with these two guys, because they genuinely care about you and your life, and most importantly, your family too.
I was actually at a point where I was considering leaving the coaching. It had nothing to do with them, to be very fair. It had a lot to do with me, and I thought, no, I can do this. I feel like I've learned this and I've learned that. But it was an old pattern that was actually a part of what was coming up for me. And in that moment, I had some fear around my finances, or I had fear around what I was going to receive. And at the end of the day, I decided to stay. I'm glad that I did. And what was really amazing at that point is, rather than leading into old patterns, what I decided, or made the choice to do rather, was to step into a space of the unknown so that I could receive new possibilities, the same possibilities that I had been praying and asking from the universe. And lo and behold, when I stood in a new space for the first time, actually responded in conversations with, I am worthy of receiving certain amounts of money, I am worthy of this, I am worthy of that, and bringing that energy into my conversations, within less than a week, I had $8,300 just show up in front of me from unexpected sources. What do you say about that? Guy and Alan, in their coaching program, can never take responsibility for the results that you receive. It's not for them to take responsibility for that, it's for you. But what I want to do is I want to give them credit to walking with me down my road, down my journey, so that I had someone to stand with me in that space where I was about to sabotage everything. Unconsciously, I was about to do that. But because I had made the commitment to myself to work with these guys, and that they were ready and willing to be a bigger stand for me than I was for myself in that moment, I was able to receive actually what it is that I want in this life. And that's abundance, and that's relationships, and that's breakthroughs. This stuff it's not that it's hard to hold or hard to receive or hard to gain, but when you get the privilege of meeting someone that seems like it's your match in a coaching space, take it on, because it is much easier to go through life and to work through your breakthroughs and your old patterns and your blind spots when you have a mirror for you. And that's what Guy and Alan have been for me. And I'll always credit them for a part of where I end up in life. And I feel like what those guys have done is they've really helped me to launch into a whole different side of myself, into a whole larger side of myself. And I feel incredibly grateful. If you're in a space right now where you're considering coaching and you feel like it's a fit for you and for you with Guy and Alan, I would just tell you today, don't waste time. You have no idea what's coming in your direction. Take that stuff on, take it seriously, and lead your life with velocity. And it's something that's possible for everybody.
Since I started following you guys, not only has that had a profound impact on my life, but almost every single person that I've shared your content with, passed it on to people from Europe, the United States, Australia, where I live. They always write back to me telling me how it's impacted their life. And it's not just in one area. It touches them in business, it touches them in their relationships, it touches them in their relationship to themselves. So I think it was just about time that I said thank you from the bottom of my heart. what you have done for me and countless others is so freaking amazing. For anybody who's considering the, I guess, possibility of working with Guy and Ilan, consuming some of their content, all I can say is don't even think about it. Every second you're waiting is a second that you could be nourishing your mind, enriching your soul, and actually getting your machine that is you onto a path of creating the life that you really desire. I'm not just talking about things, but I'm talking about your state of being and the actual place you exist from in your life.
Before I started with them, had quite a tumultuous relationship with my husband, lots of disagreements about parenting mainly, and it's really good to say that we're definitely on solid ground right now. It seems that we just respect each other a lot more, and our conversations seem to be at a much more higher level. Even so that my 3-year-old noticed how happy everyone was, and we were sitting at dinner one night and he just basically said, everyone's happy now, and I just thought that was so lovely to hear. So other things that have happened to me is I had this business idea for quite some time, and last week all of a sudden things have started snowballing. So my business idea went from a vision to kind of it's starting to happen and get into motion, and I am a mom of a 12-week-old baby, so a lot of those types of people can't typically get things going quite quickly, and with their help and guidance, I feel that I kind of am empowered to do really whatever I want. And if you're on the fence about any of it, just do it, make the commitment and do it, and you'll definitely be better for it.
But I want to really thank you from the bottom of my heart. I so appreciate what you guys bring into this world and what you do, and it's so aligned with my purpose, which is to be an unconditional stand for others. And you actually help me to be a better stand, not only for myself, but also for every single soul I touch. I mean, we all have unique gifts, and let's share it, because together we grow, together we are strong, and we want to be there for each other, right? This is the whole purpose of this.
So, we're like in a really interesting place in this process, because business has never been better. Both just in terms of what we're doing right now and just sort of my overall perspective of where it's going. And I am somebody who is incredibly neurotic and incredibly worried about where things are going to go. And I am just so optimistic about both where we are and where we're going. I've never felt just so complete and just positive about where things are. But we're not going to touch that. I've lost 50 pounds. I'm at 51 pounds of weight loss now since the last time we talked. And again, it's not even the thing that we need to talk about, because it is not even the most profound thing that has happened to me since the last time we talked. Whew, this is really intense. So the thing that happened that was there's no language for it other than just grace and being guided, but it was just like such a clear manifestation of my creation. Like I, without question, created that circumstance and that event through my thoughts and through my actions and through what was going on with my life. And it was just so incredibly powerful just to take a step back and take a step outside of it and be like, whoa, like, look at the frequency I was vibrating at and look at what I attracted into my life. There's just no chance that just happens by accident. Like I created that, you know? Absolutely. And I was crying last night when I was home thinking about it, just because I was just like, oh my God, like look at like what I can do. Look at the power that I have. And again, effortless. And it was just so, and I was just taking stock of everything and just like how blessed I feel about all these areas of my life. And then I had this happen and I was just like, holy shit, like look at the power that I have as a human being. And I'm just getting warmed up. I'm just getting warmed up, baby. So like, I just feel like I am just on a whole different plane right now, guys. I really do. yeah, it just moved me and inspired me. And again, I'm sitting here and I have all of these amazing things. Like when we first started our coaching, like I wanted to lose weight and like build a successful business, and like I'm achieving all of that and it feels great. And it's just like, we got a lot more, we have much bigger things that we're moving on to, like much bigger things. So yeah, I mean, it's just really incredible. I just wanted to start there and share there, and just the power of thoughts and vibrating at the right frequency and what you bring in, just incredible. I said it before, but I'm just so incredibly grateful that I found you guys. I mean, I again, talking about being guided, like, you know, again, now it hits you in the face, but like, I mean, you guys have changed my life in such a powerful way. I mean, in a way that I'll never be able to repay. And I'm so excited to meet you guys in person.
I know.
Big fucking hug and just be like, I love you guys, because, you know, I was in a really not a great place. Like I had, like, not a dangerous place, but I just was in a trajectory where I know I just would have been like, you know, the countless people who just sort of drone through life, have anxiety and die. I'm living my life. And I mean, it's because of you guys. I mean, truly. So, I mean, thank you for, you know, just thank you for everything that you've done for me and you continue to do. And, you know, I'm just looking forward to our continued work together. And I feel the ascension. Like the way I see things and talk about things and perceive things is just so different from where I was when we first started working. So, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to be a part of. And honestly, like you guys are a blessing. Like you guys are like divine, like almost divine intervention that was put into my life. I really feel that way. Cause I found you through Amazon. Like it was, you know, like it was just like, you know, just a totally random, I was listening to a podcast and that's how I found you. And now it has just totally altered the course of my life. Amazing. So, it's a beautiful thing. Much love to you, brother.
All right. So there are some of you who might be on the fence, and so I'm here to purge you of your fears, or at least help aid in the purge. I'm assuming you are like me and you had reasons why you can't take the course, like you don't have money, you don't have time, it's probably a scam, what if it's bullshit, what if it's not worth it? And you just have to do it. You have to rip the Band-Aid off and do it, because at the end of the day, you want to do it, and you're creating reasons to stop you from doing it. And I can say from my own experience, I remember I was in Cambodia on a visa run, and I got to that point where I just was seeing how afraid I was, and I actually became really present to how afraid I am in life, and how much that fear of failure, of judgment, of being alone, being as great as I see myself as being, and always shying away from that. And so I remember I decided that I was going to commit to something that was different and see what doing something different does for my life. And it significantly changed. One of the things that Guy and Elon talk about is a 1% shift. And this is something I share with people every single day. And maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but as often as possible, I'm surrounded by people just like you and me. We're surrounded by people who are comfortable, who want change, and are like me. They're afraid to step out of their comfort. They're afraid to do something that will bring them to a point of judgment or persecution or greatness. They're afraid, and so they shrink, and I shrink, and we all have this shrinkage. The 1% shift is something that you don't really realize. You always think you have to do these macro things to change your life, but it's all about doing one tiny little thing. And every moment, in every present moment, when you make one choice, like I did in Cambodia on my visa run, when I made that one choice to say fuck it and just trust that these people, Guy and Elon, could offer something to me that will allow me to expand. I'm gonna cry, I'm totally gonna cry. And I said, fuck it. And I took out my credit card, and I remember I tried to type in the number and my card declined. I had like barely enough. And so I emailed them and I was like, listen, I don't have all the money. Will you allow me to break it up? And they said yes. And so they said yes, and I paid for the course. And I remember instantly having spending anxiety. And I was like, fuck, you're supposed to be saving for a rainy day. And I had all these reasons. And then I just literally like took a deep breath and I relaxed, and I was like, I'm doing something different. I'm seeing where different takes me. And here I am. I'm finishing out an extraordinary year.